Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Pregame Show. Bucs at the Rams. It's a primetime Sunday night football matchup. The Bucs, having lost 2 in a row, looking to get back into the winning column. The Rams, arguably the best team in football, so it's going to be an uphill battle in this game tonight. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for rocking and rolling with us this morning as we preview the game. We're going to get into the biggest storylines, matchups, and things to watch for this game. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joining with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Hello, Scott. How we doing?
Hello, Matt. Good morning, Pewter people. How are you? So here's what we're going to do. You probably, if you watched our Wednesday show, our Bucs at Rams preview, probably know we were a little hard on the Buccaneers. Matt and I don't think that they're going to win, but we're going to keep this positive because anything can happen. I saw that yesterday with my Kansas State Wildcats rolling into Utah. I lost a huge bet yesterday, Matt. I thought Utah was going to steamroll K-State. We ran for over 400 yards against the Utah Utes, and the referees absolutely stole the game from us. It was sickening to watch, but it gave me some perspective about the Buccaneers. We don't think the Buccaneers are going to roll into LA and really have a chance against a team that's on a 5-game winning streak like the Rams. They've lost 2 games, 33-26 at Philadelphia earlier in the season. They lost at home on Thursday night against the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers beat them at home. Then they returned the favor and crushed the 49ers at San Francisco. They also demolished the Jaguars 35-7. They beat the Ravens. They've got a lot of quality wins here. But you know what? Any given Sunday, and Matt, I think too, any given Sunday night, I'm still sticking with my pick for the Rams. But you know what? The game's going to start off at 0-0. Both teams have a chance in this one. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if the Buccaneers can do what neither you nor I think they can do. But I think Buccaneer fans are hoping for that they can go out there and get an upset win.
It is true. It will be tied at 0-0 once the ball is kicked. But as soon as that ball is kicked, it might be 7-0. Looking at how the Bucs defended kick returns last week. So you can talk about positivity all you want. I don't necessarily feel that way. I'm still going to be negative. Well, we'll see. I mean, I could have the right to change my mind. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt the Bucs are not in a good position for this game. Yeah. No Jamel Dean. Benjamin Morrison, who I noticed on Friday, like he wasn't on the injury report at all. And then Friday, he came out later than everybody else and was just standing on the sideline. And then it turns out he's questionable for today's game. Yeah. And I know obviously teams have been picking on him and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel good about this game. And you got to add in as well, the Bucs have played terribly in primetime. I know they beat they beat Houston on Monday Night Football in week 2, but then for all the rights they had there, they went completely wrong against the Lions on Monday Night Football. And historically, since Todd Bowles has been the head coach of the Bucs, they have not played well in primetime. So I think that's a big factor as well. So we'll see. I mean, certainly there are ways that the Bucs can win. I think running the football would be very important in this one. So, could they win? For sure. They're a good team, but the Rams are a great team. So we'll see.
Well, I think the recipe for success has to be the Bucs playing their best game of the season. And it has to be the Rams kind of self-destructing a little bit, right? Because on paper and with momentum, all of those things that you can look at, the individual matchups, which we'll get into a little bit later, a lot of the skews towards the Rams are that's a reason why they're 9-2 and they're like this far behind the Eagles in the NFC in terms of getting that number 1 spot. Right now, it's just that both the Eagles and the Rams have the same 8-2 record. It's just the Eagles have that head-to-head win over the Rams right now. But it wouldn't surprise me if either the Eagles or the Rams are that top seed in the NFC when it's all said and done, because that's the way it's kind of trending. Speaking of trending, Todd Bowles told us that Chris Godwin was trending in the right direction, and there have been some reports, Ian Rappaport's reported, and we're working to kind of confirm that. But it does look like we're going to see Chris Godwin play. And there was some interesting news because we were told it was a fibula injury, but again, Dr. Todd Bowles, not always forthcoming when it comes to the specifics of that. Todd just, I think, has an aversion to broken bones because he did not really reveal the fact that Jalen McMillan actually broke some bones in his neck. He called it a neck strain, which is technically true. He does have a neck strain in addition to broken bones in his neck. And he said that it was a fibula injury for Chris Godwin, but he kind of failed to mention that it was a broken fibula, a hairline fracture in the fibula that probably happened in that Seahawks game. But Matt, it's been several weeks. He has not played since week 5. And here we are in what is this, week 12? Week 11?
Yep.
Where are we at?
Week
12. Yeah. So he's missed some time for sure. But we're going to see Chris Godwin tonight. What are you expecting from Chris Godwin on the field?
Not much from Chris Godwin. I'm not saying he's going to be a decoy because the last time that he came back from his injury, he did play a majority of the game. I believe his snap count percentage was in the 70s, so the Bucs certainly didn't hold him back. I am curious this time around, since it's a different injury and it's a pain tolerance thing, if he will be on a bit of a pitch count. I think his presence is important. I think he'll dictate some of the focus of the Rams defense, which takes pressure off of Emeka Egbuka. And as I mentioned during the week, 2 of Emeka Egbuka's best games happened when Chris Godwin was in the lineup when Mike Evans was unfortunately out. Games against the Eagles and the Seahawks, one of arguably the best game of the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm not expecting much production-wise from Chris Godwin Jr., but as far as like leadership, presence, effort, all of that stuff, I think generally it will be a positive for Tampa Bay's offense. And then, if he's able to contribute here and there, then go for it. Yeah, Henry Gigante says, Dr. Todd Bowles, he's got a leg. I got to say, a lot of the times throughout the years in the NFL, you see coaches getting angry about answering about injuries and stuff like that. And Bowles has been pretty chill about it. He answers everything. But I understand why coaches hate talking about injuries because you're asking them to dissect all these specific things. Like Todd Bowles is what, a 62, 63-year-old man?
62,
He doesn't give a damn about the injuries. He gives a damn about like this guy's going to be out, this guy's going to be in. But he doesn't want to break down the specifics of, his knee, it's this part of the meniscus versus this part of that, or the leg, and there's these 10 different bones, and it's this bone, but it's not hurting this bone. He doesn't give a crap about any of that, but he's got to say it to all of us. So I understand the anger and frustration that head coaches have when talking about the specifics of injuries.
Well, and also too, to Todd Bowles' credit, I mean, he's actually treating this like any head coach should. You don't care about the injured players. You care about who's going to play and help you. If you're injured, like, you're of no help to the team. I'm just stating the facts here, and I'm not trying to be harsh about it, but spending any mental energy on players who are not going to dress and be able to help you on the field, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, whatever, it serves no purpose. So and you see it all the time. Coaches even say this in training camp when there's a holdout. We're going to focus on the guys who are here, right? That's all you can do as a coach. Control what you can control. So I don't really expect anything more or less from Todd Bowles in that standpoint. Although, and I'm with you. Maybe Todd just doesn't care. It's like maybe he doesn't care about the specifics because like he's going to be out. So like, what does it matter if he's got a broken this or that or sprain or strain or whatever? So. Is he being forthcoming? No, but is it on purpose? Is it diabolical? It might not be. It might just be Todd really does not give a crap, like you said, Matt, and he just focused on
and to clarify, he cares about the person. He cares about Godwin Jr. He cares about Bucky Irving, but I'm saying like the outside aspects and optics of the injury is what he does not care.
Todd Bowles cares about Chris Godwin. Coach Bowles cares about the players who are going to help him win on Sunday because that's the mission at hand, right?
Yeah.
And so, and speaking of mission at hand, we did have some good news this week. We kind of tweeted it out, and then Todd Bowles addressed it on Friday. Bucky Irving expected to play against the Arizona Cardinals. He will not be playing today. Bucky's been going through a lot, kind of leave it at that. But this was a shoulder injury that has been slow to recover from. And I think you'll understand why when Bucky addresses this in the media, if he really kind of is revealing or not. But good news. Help is on the way. Chris Godwin expected to be back tonight. And then you've got Bucky Irving expected to play against the Cardinals. And, we said it in their last home game, Matt, against the Patriots, when you and I were doing the post-game podcast. It's a situation where, Bucky Irving was running around, jumping, bouncing around. The foot's fine. It's just the shoulder.
Yeah.
And as we saw with Servassier Dennis last year, sometimes when you play with a shoulder injury, that one hit can unravel things, right? And we saw Servassier Dennis have a 12 tackle game in week 2 against the Lions in the 2024 season. It looked great. And then just that one hit against the Eagles. And so if Bucky Irving comes back, and obviously there wasn't a shoulder surgery, and I'm not sure if Servassier's injury is the same injury as Bucky's, there's a chance it's not. But you hope that when Bucky comes back, he can avoid that one hit or that one where he's getting driven into the ground, where the shoulder can just be stable, and we see Bucky the rest of the game. Do have some breaking injury news. I was just informed via text that Benjamin Morrison will be a game time decision. So there is a chance he can play, but that hamstring injury is not one that just automatically healed itself on the plane ride out to LA. He is in Los Angeles, and he is officially questionable, and he is going to be a game time decision. Let's get into our official injury report, Matt, and we'll kind of dive into this a little bit further. The injury reports on Pewter Report, sponsored by Jorgensen Law Office, Jorgensen Law PA over in St. Petersburg. The fantastic news about them is you get a free case evaluation, and then you don't pay a penny until they win your case. So if you need legal representation in the areas of workers' comp, personal injury, Social Security, give the folks over at Jorgensen Law Office a call. You can visit them on the web at jorgensenlawoffice.com or give them a call, 727-347-7733. Big Tampa Bay fans, big Pewter Report fans. So don't be surprised if you talk a little football while you're talking about how Jorgensen Law can help you with your injury needs. So the injury report, Matt, no surprises outside of Benjamin Morrison. And we just broke here on Pewter Report's Pewter pregame show that Benjamin Morrison, it will be a game time decision. So he is not ruled in or out right now. They're going to test that hamstring at the stadium, at SoFi Stadium, and see if he can play. But your thoughts on the injury report? You were out there at practice this week. Redison, Reddick, Irving, and Dean are out.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the same injury report the past couple of weeks now. Jamel Dean is a new addition because he technically played last week but got hurt very early in the game. So to me, that's the biggest loss in all of this, because we've seen Bucky out the past month. Ben Bredesen, this is the second game in a row that he'll be missing. So to me, it comes down to how they generate a pass rush without Hassan Reddick, not that he was like the big provider of it anyway, and how do the Bucs go about playing that outside corner position, especially with Benjamin Morrison being a game time decision. Let's go under the premise of he's not available. Do you move Jacob Parrish to the outside? Do you put Kindle Vildor in that position? There's a couple of chess pieces that might need to be moved around to solidify this defense that, at the same time, even when they did have Jamel Dean, haven't been getting the job done. So more concerned about the defensive side than necessarily the loss of Bredesen and Bucky, just because, I don't know, they didn't have Ben Bredesen last week. They ran for over 200 yards. So to me, it's more the defensive side.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And let's take a look at the line for today's game, brought to you by Splash Sports, Matt.
Yeah, I don't know how it's at 5.5. I've seen it go all the way up to 7 and even 7.5. 5.5 is a sucker's bet. If you can find it at that, take the Rams and put your mortgage on it. This is going to be an absolute bloodbath in Bucs versus Rams. So 5.5, I think that's kind of egregious, and good
and
for
the line
Vegas
has
for having
moved.
Belief in the Bucs.
Since yesterday, the line has moved. It's actually +7 now. I just checked on Hard Rock Bet app. So yes. Yeah, that's still, I think that 7 is also a little generous. I think maybe people are looking at the fact that, Tampa Bay beat Seattle, and Seattle came within 2 points of tying the Rams. It was 21-19. The Rams beating the Seahawks last week, and that included 4 Sam Darnold interceptions. But I'm with you. I think a lot has to go right for the Buccaneers to win this game. And then the Rams have got to really help the Buccaneers out by not bringing their A game tonight. And, Matt, the way Matthew Stafford's playing, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, at home on Sunday Night Football. This is a young but also a very mature team. Sean McVay has been there and done that. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been there twice. He knows how to show up and win in prime time, and I think that's something the Bucs are still learning how to do. This team was primed and prepped. They had one loss heading into the Detroit Monday night game, and the Lions reeling off of a loss in prime time against the Chiefs at Arrowhead. And the Lions just said, nope, not yet. You're not there. You're not at our level, Tampa Bay. And really just manhandled the Buccaneers on both sides of the ball in that 24-9 win back in week 7. So have the Buccaneers made strides? Have they learned from that? Have they become a team that can handle this moment and show up? I don't know. They haven't shown up the last 2 weeks, Matt, especially on defense.
Yeah, and it concerns me too, because even though the Rams won, they didn't play their best football. So they, in a way, they're kind of looking for a bounce back game, even though they won and defeated the Seattle Seahawks. So you go into this matchup in prime time. Sean McVay always has his guys ready, which is a testament to him, because you see that week in and week out across the league that certain teams are just kind of sleepwalking. I mean, the Bucs defense surely was sleepwalking against the Buffalo Bills, and really they have been since coming out of the bye week. So yeah, things are going to have to bounce the Bucs' way. It is possible they can create turnovers, even with the 44 points allowed. They had 3 turnovers in the game, so it can happen. It's certainly possible, but highly unlikely.
Yep. Let's get to a couple super chats. We have some super chats here in the morning, so you know how it works. You guys want to super chat us? You cut the line.
Yep. Thanks to Blueberry RW1KR for the 698 super chat. Says, Bucs have yet to prove they can win without Jenna Lane. This is going to be a crucial prove it game.
What does that mean? They can win without Jenna Lane? I think it's
since Jenna got her surgery, which hope Jenna's doing well. Spoke to her last week, wishing her well on the surgery. Since she hasn't been in the building, they haven't won.
But she was there for that Patriots game, and they still lost. So I don't know that's the correct analysis. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but thanks for the super chat.
Yeah.
And wishing well to Jenna Lane. Mark Fisher, thanks for the $4.99 super chat, says, I'm so pessimistic, especially after comparing Bills on Sunday versus Thursday. Help me read the room. Does Bucs defense have confidence belief after the last 2 weeks? Thanks.
To me, it's gonna be, can the front four win their one-on-ones up front? And this is something they just haven't been able to do on a nearly consistent basis. Even with Hassan Reddick, he was not winning the one-on-ones, right? So you don't have Rob Havenstein at right tackle. You've got a backup right tackle coming in there. As we saw even in Atlanta in week 1, Matt, they started their 3rd string right tackle. The Falcons did.
Yeah.
And Hassan had 1 sack in that game. So it is not even about the sacks. It's just he wasn't you didn't feel Hassan Reddick's presence the entire game, right? Where he probably should have dominated that matchup. And I think at 31, we've all seen that he's not that guy anymore. He's closer to the guy he was with the Jets last year than he was the guy that the Bucs were hoping we're getting back in Philadelphia when he had 2 more consecutive double-digit sack seasons, right? And I've talked about it before and other shows. Pewter Pulse's written about it. There's something about 31. A lot of good pass rushers, a lot of them, even great ones. That's where the decline starts. For whatever reason, 31, 32, that's where it all starts to go downhill. We've seen it with JPP, seen it with Shaq Barrett, seen it with Simeon Rice, the greatest edge rushers in Bucs history. That is the age where it happens. And I just think Hassan Reddick now, he's not coming back. He'll be back this year, but they're not going to re-sign him. I mean, he's closer to the guy that we saw at the Jets last year than the guy that they were hoping to get from the Eagles. And honestly, that's why I think this team is hitting the pause button on, pursuing a guy like Trey Hendrickson, because he's starting to break down too with injuries. He's got the hip injury. He's 31. It's just something about those ages. Sometimes you see it. A Calais Campbell, a Bruce Smith back in the day, they can power through and still be a factor, at age 33, 34. But those guys are rare. Usually Father Time, he's undefeated in football. Usually the injuries start to kick in, the production starts to decline, and that's kind of that sweet spot, that 31, 32, that's where the body starts breaking apart. You lose a step, and you're just no longer that guy.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's hurting the Bucs. They're not generating a pass rush. Son hasn't been there. Yaya Diyabi will show up in certain moments and then just disappear. And it's not like help is on the way. Chris Braswell is proving to be a bust as a second-round pick from 2 seasons ago. David Walker ain't walking through that door anytime soon. He's going to be coming off of a torn ACL. So it's kind of back to the drawing board for the Bucs and how to generate a pass rush. Even Vita Vea is getting a little bit older too. There's no Kalijah Cansey. So the Bucs don't have a lot of answers right now with getting a good pass rush going. And it's compounded even further in this game specifically because Matthew Stafford is so good against the blitz. If the Bucs want to get pressure, they're going to have to blitz. And yet Stafford's so good against it. And at the same time, if you go with a 4-man rush and it's not getting home, well, any quarterback can be great when you have plenty of time to throw it. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation in terms of getting to Matt Stafford tonight.
Yeah, and just to talk about Yaya as well. I've kind of done a little bit of a deep dive with 2 different but similar pewter pulses. I just put my latest one, which I put out yesterday on Pewter Report TV or YouTube channel in the chat. You can check that out. And it kind of like sandwiched in between my SR Fab 5, where I've really kind of done a deep dive into the problems with the defensive front. And what I mean by that is like the front 6. As I call it. The front 7 technically is that 3-4 defense, but because Todd Bowles and the Bucs play so much nickel defense, it's really the 6 players up front. It's the front 4, the 2 defensive tackles, the 2 edge rushers, outside linebackers, and it's the 2 inside linebackers. And Jason Light, Todd Bowles, and this personnel department, they put a lot of resources into the defensive front, and it just hasn't worked out. A lot of those draft picks have been misses. And I've kind of gone back and looked and said, Jason Light knows what it's supposed to look like. He's done it before. The trade for Jason Pierre-Paul, the trade for Steve McClendon, the acquisition via free agency of Shaq Barrett, and then the drafting of Vita Vea, right? And Devin White, that was a high draft pick. And I think if you could take away the ego from Devin White, he probably would still be a Buccaneer. If you could just make him a robot and took away the ego and just say, play it up to your athletic abilities, go back and look at the tape in 2020. Pretty good stuff. I mean, he made the Pro Bowl in 2021, and that's kind of where it all started to unravel for him, and he got soft and wanted the bag and all that. But Jason Light knows what it's supposed to look like. But the problem is he's not been able to reconstruct it, and he's tried to do it through the draft. JTS, Logan Hall, Chris Braswell, some premium draft picks that have missed. Kalijah Cansey. I think he's a difference maker when he's on the field, but as I've said before, by the end of the season, he'll have played in 28 games as a Buccaneer and missed 23. That's a first-round pick. That's huge. Vita Vea is now 30. He'll be 31 in the offseason. Levante Davis, 35. He'll be 36 in January. And there's no playmakers that are going to make up for Vita Vea and Levante David that are waiting in the wings in that front, the defensive front right now. There just isn't. Yaya Diaby closer to Carl Nassib than Shaq or JPP. So there's going to have to be some wholesale changes. Again, it's not for lack of effort. They drafted David Walker. David Walker can't help him. He's on IR. They signed Hassan Reddick, big time splash signing. He's just not that guy. Swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss. And this team is not going to really rise up and beat a Matthew Stafford and the Rams with a good but not great front 7. And we saw that too, Matt. Even when this team did have a great front 7 in that fateful game, that was one of Ndamukong Suh's best games. That was his last game as a Buccaneer. He dominated that game up front. But then you saw, look at the screen. You've got Nacho, right? You've got Raheem Nunez-Roches on the field. You got Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, right? In 2021, it wasn't as good as it was in 2020 when Jason Pierre-Paul was the Pro Bowler. Remember, he was hurt a lot that year in 2021. He did have a pretty good game with a recovered fumble, and he did have some pressure. But this was kind of the beginning of the end, this Rams-Bucs game for that Bucs defensive front, because Suh was gone, JPP was gone. The rebuild kind of started in 2022. Shaq Barrett got hurt, right? So this game against the Rams, that was kind of the beginning of the end for this great defensive front that some would say should have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nothing against Tom Brady, but that Rams game against the Bucs in 2021, that was the end of a really short but great era for a Bucs defensive front that had Shaq, JPP, a younger Vita Vea at age 26, a younger Levante at age 30, and Devin White. And Jason Light has struggled to replace those players. And they're going to have to do some wholesale changes, dive into free agency, dive into trades, do something more than crossing your fingers, throwing the dart at the draft board and drafting another defensive tackle, an edge rusher, whatever, when that has not been a point of success for this franchise.
Yeah, it almost feels like Shaq and JPP should have split that Super Bowl MVP, but that's discussion for another day. And there are times the Bucs can generate pressure, but it's different when Anthony Nelson has a crazy game against the Saints versus a crazy game against, some of the better teams that they've gone against, with the Patriots last week, the Bills, 2 weeks ago, the Bills last week, and the Rams tonight. You're just not seeing that same production. And if Bucs fans want to get on Jason Light's case for not making trades or whatever the case may be for an edge rusher, I get that. That's totally fine, and I think pretty fair. But at the same time, as you mentioned before, they have tried a number of different things. They've signed certain guys.
They're not ignoring the positions.
Exactly. Yeah, they put a ton of capital into it, and it just hasn't worked. So, yeah, you got to go back to the drawing board a little bit, kind of see what's working, what's not working in terms of their evaluation, and make a little bit of a pivot. And I think we'll see that in free agency for sure, because they want to try to find someone a little bit more established in the current as well. That wasn't a pun on the Bucs show on YouTube, but
I've got some thoughts on this real quick as it pertains to tonight, because you're going to see the Rams quickly rebuild their front, their defensive front, right? I mean, Aaron Donald, I didn't realize this just because I cover the Bucs, not the Rams, but Aaron Donald, Matt, and Pewter people, he was a Pro Bowler every single year he played in the league, from a rookie to his last year in 2023. I mean, you talk about surefire first ballot Hall of Fame. He probably should be the exception. They should just induct him right now. There shouldn't even be a 4-year waiting period for the guy.
Yeah.
Like, he retired in 2023. They should just have said, hey, here's the gold jacket. Like, just take it. Pure dominance from Aaron Donald from start to finish. And I remember watching Aaron Donald at the Senior Bowl, and he was the player I actually wanted the Bucs to draft in 2014. And I thought it was either going to be Aaron Donald or Mike Evans, and they actually went with Mike Evans. And again, you can't miss with either.
No problem there. Yeah.
No problem there. But as Henry Gigante says, one of our Pewter Report TV Platinum members, the front six needs overhauled. They need instinctive, proven talent. So I've got some people in the Rams building that I know, and I've kind of asked them, like, what's the secret sauce? What's the magic ingredient for rebuilding that Rams defense up front so quickly? And you look at how they've done it. They've got a pair of third-round picks from that 2023 draft, Aaron Donald's last year, and Kobe Turner and Byron Young, two very good foundational building block pieces, but third-rounders. Yeah. And then they drafted in the same draft their first-round pick, Jared Verse, their other edge rusher, and then Braden Fisk, who is a big-time defensive lineman for them as well. They play a 3-4. They got Nate Landman, who they just signed yesterday to a 3-year contract extension. Stud player. Falcons didn't want him because he was a restricted free agent, undrafted free agent out of Colorado. Falcon on that. And he goes out to the Rams. 4 forced fumbles this year, 2 fumble recoveries, 91 tackles. He's been a stud, especially against the run. They go out and get Poona Ford at nose tackle. So they've done it with free agency. They've done it with some undrafted free agents. Omar Spates from LSU is their inside linebacker. But they've done it through a couple of third-round picks, a second-round pick, and a first-round pick. So it hasn't even been a ton of premium picks, but they've hit on guys that are athletic, but they're not athletic freaks. They're instinctive, tough, physical football players. And that's why that front seven is good. They're relentless against the pass. They have 27 sacks. But unlike Bowles, they get a lot of theirs from the defensive front, not so much from blitzing linebackers and secondary players. And so it can be done, but I think Jason Light and the personnel staff, they've got to stay away from drafting the athletes, the Joe Tryon Shawinkas, the Kalijah Kansis, the Logan Halls, the guys that that are they're high RAS scores, the Yaya Diabis, the Zion McCollums. They draft all these athletes, but they're not the most instinctive football players. And you can find both. They're hard. They're unicorns. Warren Sapp was that high football IQ, incredibly instinctive, crazy good athlete, right? Same with Derek Brooks. But that's where they've, I think, missed the boat. They've focused too much on the athleticism and not enough on just the badasses, the ass kickers, the hard-nosed guys, the guys that love football. A case in point is Devin White, tremendous athlete, 4'4" guy, looks the part, everything, but loves himself more than he loves football. And that was ultimately his undoing. So trying to get this home to the front office in these Pewter Pulse videos, folks. I'm trying to pull back the curtain and say, guys, wake up. What you've been doing hasn't been working. I'm trying. So we'll see what happens. But at the same time, Matt, they drafted a guy, and maybe they get it. Instead of drafting another Zion McCollum, they drafted a Benjamin Morrison, instinctive, 9 interception, kind of guy. Jacob Pear's good athlete, but a guy that is tough, hard-nosed, very good tackler, dog. He's a dog. Tyke Smith, not the best athlete. He's a dog. Instinctive football player.
Georgia.
David Walker doesn't have the measurables, doesn't have the 4 or 5 speed, nothing like that. Instinctive football player. Averaged about 10 sacks a season at Central Arkansas. We have no idea if David Walker's going to be hit or miss. This whole rookie season's on IR. But Matt, again, it seems like this past year they figured this out. They saw the error in their ways. At least I hope that's the case, because they've drafted some players in this year's draft class that are a little bit different than the Yayas, the Joe Tryon-Shawinkas, the Logan Halls, the Zion McCollums that they have in the past. We'll see.
Just feels like, as far as edge rushers go, they need more physicality and more brute force toughness at the position.
I agree.
We got a $5 super chat from Les Evans. Thank you very much. Says, will this be the first game that Shawn Tucker gets to be the #1 starting running back?
I don't know.
I think he's going to. So starter, who's to say? But I think he's going to be the leader in rushing attempts. I mean, he was last week at 19, and Josh Broussard said on Thursday that he's earned the right for more opportunities. So I could see him getting over 20 rushing attempts in this game. I think he'll be the essential #1 starting running back, even though the first time the Bucs offense takes the field, it probably will be Rachaad White in there, but that doesn't mean Shawn Tucker isn't going to be involved. He's going to be the main catalyst in the running game. I think that's safe to say. Yeah,
and when you're a starter, you're the guy that runs out of the tunnel. You're the guy that gets on the field first. That's all it is, right? So to me, I'm with you, Matt. It's at the end of the game. What are you? Where are the snap counts, and more importantly, where are the carries, right? Because I think Rachaad White's going to outsnap Shawn Tucker, because he will be out there on passing downs. He will be the pass protector for Baker Mayfield, et cetera. It's just a matter of who's going to get the most touches. And I'm with you, Matt. Whether Shawn Tucker starts or not, I want to see Shawn Tucker get the ball more.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Marcos Blanco, thanks for the $4.99 super chat. Says, for some reason, I feel a little better about Chris Godwin Jr.'s return this season for the second time. I think he was ramped up a little better this time around.
Yeah.
And they certainly took their time with it this time around. And it's a little bit of a different injury than what he was returning from in the first place. So who's to say how much more time was necessarily needed between one or the other? I mean, Chris Godwin Jr. knows his body. He's dealt with injuries before. He's going to give it a go, and we'll see. But they definitely took their time with it, as they should. I mean, there's not much more they can really do. They're not going to push him to get in there early, despite all the other injuries that they have at the position specifically. So we'll see.
What really concerns me is with Chris Godwin is this is the same fibula that, and it's up higher from what I understand, that this broken ankle was, right? And so you've got metal rods and plates and screws in there, and you have to wonder the bone integrity, right? With all of that hardware down there by the ankle, is it stressing the bone, right? Is he having to, because you don't run the same. And I remember I've talked to some players who have either known players that have had this injury or that have told me about this. And you don't run the same because your foot's not the same, and it's never going to be the same. It's surgically repaired, screws, plates, hardware, metal in your body, right? And you just have to wonder: is this fibula, has it lost some integrity because of the hardware down there, to where it's putting some stress on that, and you're seeing some of these hairline fractures? This is going to be something to watch, not just this year, but going forward. You can't heal a bone. Bones can heal, right? But it's not like you can massage out a bad break or something like that.
Right.
Like you can with a hamstring, right? You can get that scar tissue out by using some techniques, and whether it's laser, whether it's massage, whatever. It's just a little bit harder to deal with the bone, because that requires surgery, and sometimes when bones lose some of their integrity, that's harder to overcome. And the older you get, trust me, I'm 53. My bones are not what they used to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's no magic formula to get this type of injury to heal quicker. It's just a bit of patience, and at least we're at the tail end, hopefully, of said patience.
Yep. And I say that because, like, I was out and I was wearing some cleats when I coached Pop Warner back in the day. I think it was like 2015, and I was just literally running around in my cleats. I had a foot fracture, like a stress fracture of my foot. From what? Just from wearing cleats and running around? I mean, it's kind of crazy. But the older you get, your bones just kind of deteriorate. So we'll see.
I think it's time to get into the matchups of the game. We'll start with the Bucs offense against the Rams defense. A high-profile matchup to start. Tristan Wirfs against Jared Verse. Wirfs first verse.
Yeah, and Tristan played one of his best games last week, and as a run blocker, certainly really good in pass protection as well. And this is going to be a tough task, because Verse is their second leading sacker. He's got 4 sacks this year, but he's just incredibly disruptive. High pressure guy, high motor. He is the ass kicker up front. He's the Jason Pierre-Paul, if you will, of that unit. The fire starter, the emotional spark plug of the Rams defensive front, the engine that gets them going. And the other guy too, Byron Young, he's really good.
Yeah.
So you've got Verse, who's number 8, and you got Byron Young, who's 0. Both of those guys are very good. And for the Rams to really win and put pressure on Baker Mayfield and have the return of skittish Baker, which is usually not good Baker. We want to see the command control Baker that we saw against the Seahawks, the locked in Baker who was razor sharp. Pressure will get that Baker to leave the building, and we'll get skittish Baker that we saw on Monday night against the Lions, rather than calm, controlled, and cool Baker Mayfield. In this particular matchup, Matt, I'm going to go Tristan Wirfs. I just think Wirfs is going to be up to the challenge. He has not played as dominant in some games this year, but I feel like after last week's game, he's really kind of feeling it. And I think Jared, and let me rephrase this too. Jared Verse is going to play some against Luke Goedeke, and Wirfs will see Byron Young as well. But I like Tristan Wirfs against anybody in this game.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Jared Verse as well. He was fantastic at Florida State, and he's done a really good job with the Rams. But we are talking about Tristan Wirfs. And to your point, Scott, like last week, Tristan Wirfs got it going in several ways. Like, he was probably even more effective in the running game than he was the pass blocking game. So I hope the Bucs continue to lean on letting Tristan Wirfs be a driving force, whether it's a pitch to the left side or on Shawn Tucker's touchdown, they pulled him to the right side. I think if this guy's a weapon, which we know he is, utilize that to your advantage. So as good as Jared Verse is, and as much of a fan I am of Jared Verse, the answer is Tristan Wirfs. Yeah.
I'm going to say this too. Realtor David Sussman's exactly right. I like Wirfs versus the Jared Verse matchup. Wirfs seems to struggle more against speed pass rushers, and Jared Verse more of a power rusher. That's spot on. And I think we're all in agreement. We like Wirfs in this situation. Matt, Luke Goedeke versus going to be Byron Young. Also be a little bit of Jared Verse here. I love Goedeke, but one thing that you're going to see, I think, is Jared Verse and Byron Young also versus these guards. We're going to see some twists and stunts inside. And I think if Verse or Byron Young is going to have a day, it's going to be getting some twists and stunt sacks against the likes of Michael Jordan and against the likes of Dan Feeney. That's where I think the Rams might actually do some of their damage here. But I'm going to say Goedeke versus his guy is going to be a push.
I'm going to go Byron Young just because Goedeke is he's only returned since after the bye, so it's 2 games. He's looked really good. Just Byron Young's been sensational this year for LA, leading the team in sacks, which everyone thought, oh, Jared Verse, he's the main guy, he's the main edge rusher, but it's Byron Young who's really been balling out for this team. So I think Luke Goedeke will have a good game, but if I think this way, this is the way the game is going to go, the Bucs are going to be down by a lot, and they're going to have to be throwing a lot, and therefore Verse and Byron Young specifically are going to be able to tee off. Yeah. And it only takes 1 or 2 big plays to really make an impact for your team. So I'm going to go with Byron Young, but I'm not down on Luke Goedeke by any means.
Yeah, I'm with you. Shawn Tucker, the star of last week, the running back, versus Nate Landman, who is a seek and destroy inside linebacker, really plays well between the tackles. We saw Shawn Tucker have a day in Buffalo. Unfortunately, it was a losing effort, but over 100 yards rushing. He had a receiving touchdown, so 3 total touchdowns. And really was the electric spark plug the Bucs needed to get 32 points on the board. They're going to have to put up a lot of points because I think the Rams are going to be getting some points on Todd Bowles' defense. But how do you see this against Nate Landman and Shawn Tucker? There's Landman with Braden Fisk, Matt.
I'm curious to see what type of impact Shawn Tucker can have besides just the explosive running plays. Like, will they keep him on the field in certain passing situations? Can he be an effective receiver the way he was against the Bills? Can he pass block if he's asked to do so? So in that case, I'm going to take Nate Landman just because Shawn Tucker, this is an expanded role for him where he hasn't done it as much. So it's just kind of the inexperience of not playing a majority of the snaps, being the focal point of the offense where, he can do it in flashes like New Orleans a season ago and the Bills last week, but will he be able to do it consistently? I'm going to go with Nate Landman. I hope Shawn Tucker has some explosive plays, but what is he doing besides those explosive plays? To me, will be the big difference of this individual matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to take Landman too. He's just playing at an exceptionally high level right now. The Rams saw that. They just gave him a 3-year contract extension yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be pretty anxious to prove them right on Sunday Night Football. And you're going to see Nate Landman, who has a sack and a half this year. He's going to blitz, and there's going to be some times where Shawn Tucker will have to step up in pass protection. But I do like Landman in this one as well. Matt Emeka Egbuka versus Darius Williams. I think if there's a weakness, it might be the cornerbacks in this game for the Rams. But do the Bucs, are they going to have enough with Emeka Egbuka and Tez Johnson and Chris Godwin to exploit those? And is Baker Mayfield going to have enough time to find him?
Yeah, I think Emeka Egbuka will probably benefit the most and have the biggest impact from Chris Godwin Jr. returning to the lineup. I mean, the fun of what Emeka Egbuka was doing in the beginning of the year, I think, has worn off a little bit, and maybe that kind of coincides with this team losing 2 in a row and losing 3 of 4. But they need to have the Emeka Egbuka making those one-handed catches like he did against the Jets in that photo right there. And having those big games like he did against the Seattle Seahawks. It's still in there, and, Baker Mayfield has been targeting Emeka Egbuka a lot. Remember, he did have a big drop last game against the Bills as well. But I think Emeka Egbuka is going to get back to what made him a first-round draft pick by the Bucs, and hopefully he has a good game tonight. But I'm going to take Emeka Egbuka.
I think I'm going to take Emeka Egbuka in this matchup as well. He needs to have a 100-yard day. He needs to have that type of day that he had against Seattle if the Bucs are going to have a chance to win this. So I think he can get that. Doesn't necessarily mean they're automatically going to win if he does, but he's got to do his part. He needs to be a star tonight, and I think that he will. Baker Mayfield versus Cam Kinchens. Kinchens had 2 interceptions last week against Sam Darnold, their free safety. Yeah. He's rangy. He'll come down in the box at times, but he is kind of like their Anton Winfield Jr., a little bit of a bigger guy. But Mayfield, he showed better last week as a runner against the Bills, picking up some key first downs. It was not a great passing day for Baker Mayfield. Had the costly interception in the fourth quarter as well. And, which Baker Mayfield are we going to see? He didn't play great on Monday Night Football against the Lions. He didn't play great against the Saints. I'm just curious as to which Baker we're going to see tonight. It's going to have to be a magical return for Baker Mayfield to LA, where he found his fun again. He found his love for football again in that end of the 2022 season. But how do you see this matchup here? Kinchins is a player that is instinctive. The secondary and the Rams, they've got 10 interceptions. It's spread out over a lot of guys. But he was a playmaker last week, getting 2 picks on Sam Darnold.
I'm going to go with a push. Kinchins is coming in hot for sure with some big plays last week in the Rams win. I'm a little down on Baker. I mean, he still has it in him to have the big moments and those great games, and there's no time like the present for Baker Mayfield to kind of step up. But yeah, even like outside of whether or not he's going to run, he's just been missing some throws. He's still able to create plays, but they need more from Baker Mayfield if they want to turn this around. He has it in him. I hope we see it. And if they do get it, it will make for an exciting proposition for the Bucs and their offense. So because of that, I'll take a push.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think a push seems fair in this instance for every reason you said. Totally love it.
By the way, we have a $2 super chat from Son the Child, who says, I'm late. Is Chris Godwin Jr. playing? Yes, Chris Godwin Jr. is going to play in this game, returning for the first time since week 5. So it'd be good to see him in prime time.
Yep. And as we reported earlier in the show, exclusively here on Pewter Report's Pewter pregame show, Benjamin Morrison will be a game time decision with a hamstring injury. So we shall see if BMO can suit up and play. They'll find that out at SoFi Stadium tonight pregame. They will determine whether he'll be able to go or not. I think we're going to see Jacob Parrish outside regardless, Matt. I think that's probably what we're going to see, and maybe Christian Izzian in the slot, maybe some Kendall Vildor outside. I don't know. This team is not down necessarily on Morrison, but does it make a lot of sense, even if he is a game time decision and suits up, to really put him out there with the bad hamstring against the guys he's going to face like Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams? I don't know. We'll talk about that matchup in just a second here, but let's talk first about Lavonte David versus the Rams tight ends. You know, they don't have Tyler Higbee. He went on injured reserve this week, but one thing the Rams do have, some backup tight ends that can find the end zone. It's kind of crazy. Tampa Bay's tight ends don't have a touchdown this year. The only team in the league that does not have a touchdown from the tight end position. But when you look at the Rams, their tight ends, Davis Allen has three on 13 catches. So you can tell these are red zone weapons here for Matthew Stafford. 13 targets for Davis Allen all year, 3 touchdowns. Colby Parkinson has 15 catches, 2 touchdowns. Tyler Higbee, their other starting tight end, 20 catches, 2 touchdowns. And then Terrence Ferguson, the other tight end, he's got 5 catches this year, 1 touchdown. So even though they don't get targeted a lot, these backup tight ends, they'll get those cheap touchdowns. So Lavonte David, can he cover the likes of those tight ends? Because the Rams do operate a pretty good amount of time in 13 personnel with 3 tight ends on the field.
That they do, and they get super creative with it. I just don't have a lot of confidence in really all the Bucs inside linebackers right now. It's not just specifically Lavonte David, because Savrace Dennis has been a roller coaster as well. Yeah. So I have to take the Rams tight ends. I know that was more of the story last year with tight ends kind of destroying the Bucs inside linebackers, but it's happened this year as well. The Seattle game certainly stands out. It's been more about stopping the running backs in the passing game, but for this matchup, got to go with the Rams tight ends.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Vita Vea versus left guard Steve Avila. Avila is a big guy, 6'4", 335 pounds. So he actually has the size to kind of match up against Vita Vea. And I've been a little critical about Vea. Still love him as a player. Don't get me wrong. He's still the best player the Bucs have in their defensive front. But we have not seen the best of Vita Vea in a long time. And what I mean by that is we haven't seen him making those splash plays, the difference-making plays. Close but not good enough has been the story for him in a couple games. Didn't show up in the stat sheet last week at Buffalo. Again, when you're a nose tackle, sometimes you do the dirty work. You take on the double teams and all of that. At the same time, though, when you're getting paid $17.75 million, you can't have a 0 tackle game. You need to make some splash plays. You're paid that much for a reason. And again, I love Vita Vea. I think he's the second best defensive tackle in franchise history behind Warren Sapp. In my opinion, though, he's got to be a difference maker. They're counting on him to make difference-making plays. And he had 2 sacks against the Eagles all the way back in week 4, Matt. He had half a sack against the 49ers. And since then, he really has not been that productive. And for a pass rush up front that is starving for sacks, starving for guys that can actually affect the passer in the pocket, Vea's just not doing enough. And we need more out of Vita Vea. Having said that, I think this is a push until I see otherwise.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but to me, like, Vita Vea is not near the top of the list of like the defensive issues and struggles for this team. I still think he's a really good nose tackle. The stats might not be showing it, but I think he takes a lot more of the responsibility of doing the dirty work for this team than what kind of shows up. So I'm going to go with Vita Vea. I think maybe playing out on the West Coast, which, is where he's from, might, spark something in him. But I'm just going to rely on the talents of Vita Vea to get it done for the Bucs.
Bucs cornerbacks versus the Rams wide receivers. Those receivers I was talking about, it really is a 1-2 punch on the outside. These are the guys that do all of the heavy lifting. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. Adams leads the NFL with 10 touchdowns this year. Puka Nacua is a top 5 receiver in terms of yards and catches. These are 2 bona fide studs that Matthew Stafford has at his disposal. And I just don't think the Buccaneers have the cornerbacks to match up with these guys, whether Benjamin Morrison plays or not. Jamel Dean's their best cornerback, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And he's not playing tonight. So Jacob Parrish, I think he's better in the slot than he is outside. If he plays outside, I like that better than playing an injured Benjamin Morrison. But I think you're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul a little bit. Kendall Vildor, can he match up with either one of these guys on a regular down in, down out basis? Zion McCollum has made 0 plays this year, despite that 3-year contract extension that pays him $16 million. Give me the Rams wide receivers over the Bucs cornerbacks.
Yeah, this is as lopsided of a matchup that we'll see all season long. If Devontae Adams is lined up against Jacob Parrish, I mean, God bless him. It's going to be fade after fade after fade into the end zone if they're in the red zone. And Puka Nacua is a matchup nightmare for the Bucs. So, that one's pretty easy.
Yep. Yaya Diyabi versus right tackle Warren McClendon Jr. And I say right tackle because if I'm Todd Bowles, I'm putting my best pass rusher on their weakest link. And Warren McClendon Jr. will be the guy that's replacing Rob Havenstein, who's on injured reserve. They just put him on IR this week. To me, I don't know that Anthony Nelson can do maybe the type of damage that Diyabi has, but Ulrich Jackson has been playing better at left tackle. So if I'm Bowles, I put Nelson on Jackson and kind of make that a bit of a wash. But I'm trying to create some winnable one-on-one matchups up front. And I think maybe the best shot they have is if Yaya Diyabi shows up tonight and is that pass rusher that this team hopes and prays and needs him to be against McClendon. But you know what? Yaya Diyabi has not had a sack and has not had much pressure since that strip sack he had against Jared Goff on Monday Night Football. I want to give him the edge here, but I'm going to say a push until I see more from Yaya Diyabi.
I'm going to go Warren McClendon as in hopes of pushing Yaya Diyabi to make a play. They needed him to step up when Hassan Reddick went out, and he didn't. So I can't even call this a push when Yaya's done nothing to push his way to the quarterback.
Okay. And then free safety Antoine Winfield Jr. versus Matthew Stafford. This is kind of a battle of wits here, a chess match between Stafford, who is on top of his game right now, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. We've seen Antoine Winfield Jr. make some splash plays before. He certainly made his share of them against the Saints in New Orleans earlier this year. He's going to have that type of game again. He's going to have to really be a difference maker. So far, it's really been Tyke Smith who has been that difference maker for the Buccaneers. He has been the player that's come up with some splash plays, as you saw that end zone interception there. It's going to have to really be, I think, a 1-2 punch, not just Winfield, but Smith. Both of these guys have to show up in the secondary, and they're going to have to make Stafford make some mistakes, whether it's baiting him into some throws. I don't know that you can rely on the front to get there, and even when they do blitz, Stafford kills the blitz. So it's going to have to be on the back end. Winfield and Tyke Smith making some plays. How do you like Winfield showing up against Matthew Stafford tonight, Matt?
I think it's a good opportunity for him. We've seen Antoine Winfield Jr. step up and make plays, even with Tyke Smith being the better safety this season overall. But I'm going to go with a push. Matthew Stafford's playing unreal football right now, especially with throwing the ball for touchdowns. And Antoine Winfield Jr., he had a big game against the Saints. He'll get pass breakups. He'll turn the ball over. They need their best players to step up in prime time. So I'll give this one a push.
Matt, let me get your thoughts on this real quick here. This is from Les Evans, and he says, blitz, blitz, blitz. We have seen Todd Bowles do a lot of different things on defense. We have seen him blitz. We have seen him drop his edges into coverage while he blitzes.
Yeah.
We have seen him rush 3 at Josh Allen and drop 8, and Josh Allen still has time to find the open receiver downfield, Tyrell Shavers, for that touchdown up in Buffalo. What is your general thought tonight? Should it be damn the torpedoes, blitz this guy regardless and just take your chances, or sit back in zone coverage and just cross your fingers that the front four can get there, which they won't, and just let Matthew Stafford pick you apart? How do you want to die, Matt? Do you want to die fast or slowly?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to go down swinging. I think you got to go down blitzing, guns ablazing, trying to create chaos, getting to Matthew Stafford, because there's nothing more agonizing in football than watching your team on defense on a third down, trying to get off the field, and the quarterback has all day to throw. There's nothing more agonizing and painstaking. So it's the lesser of two evils. Even though Stafford's great against the blitz, go out on your sword, go out on your shield, try to make a play and generate something. That's how, when they got the interception, the first interception against Josh Allen, it was because they blitzed Servassier Dennis.
That's right.
So I think you got to go for the blitz.
I'm with you on that. And when it comes to game time, you got to go with Walk-On Sports Bistro, 3 Tampa Bay area locations to serve you: Wesley Chapel, Midtown Tampa, and Lakeland. They're going to be open late tonight, so check out the game at Walk-Ons. And don't wait around until 8:20. I mean, why don't you go there and see some of the early games? The games are always better at Walk-Ons. Big screens, not a bad seat in the house, tons of TVs, bold snacks, all the hype. And if you're having a watch party tonight, well, make it catering with Walk-Ons. They can serve up a win for you with your food. Take your event to the next level. Our new catering app is here. Order directly online or in the app. You can order on the app or by going to catering.walkons.com and place your order today, and you'll have your food tonight ready for pickup. So make your catering special with the special food from Walk-Ons. Matt, we've got a couple of shows coming up. One at 8:20 tonight. It's going to be a late night, but we know that you Buccaneer fans are here for, just like you were for Pewter Pregame. We appreciate you watching the show. Greatly appreciate that. And make sure you tune in tonight at 8:20 for Pewter Game Day, Matt.
Yeah, myself, Daniel Morales, giving play-by-play, reactions, analysis, and we keep it super interactive with everybody in the chat. So if they're winning, we'll see a lot of excitement. If they're losing, there will be a lot of anger, but you can vent your frustrations. And it's always a good time. I enjoy chatting and chopping it up with Daniel. So join us at 8:20 this evening. And then after the game, we'll have the Pewter post-game show slightly after the game, usually right after we hear from Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield. So hopefully we're talking about a Bucs win, but that will be coming up after the game day show.
Yep, and we're going to get right to the Pewter game day show. I'm sorry, the Pewter post-game show tonight, right after Baker Mayfield speaks. So typically faster on the draw for those road games. We listen to Todd Bowles and Baker, and then Matt and I will appear on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out. Hit subscribe. We're on the way to 22,000 subscribers, thanks to you. You can also watch any of our shows: Pewter Pregame, Pewter Game Day, the Pewter Report podcast, our postgame podcast. Any of our live shows you can catch on our X and Facebook channels. That's Pewter Report, at Pewter Report for those channels, and of course Pewter Report TV for our YouTube channel.
Yeah, make sure you follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video what you think is going to happen in tonight's primetime game. That's going to do it for us today. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon for another edition of the Pewter Pregame Show. Out.